Hello everyone, I'm Ben Stemrick. Allentown's the third biggest city in the fifth biggest state, and this is the follow-up question. This week's meeting started with a vote to untable a decision on American Rescue Plan funding for $1.5 million for the IronPigs minor league baseball team and another $1.5 million for the new Vinci Science Center plan for downtown Allentown. Now, we spoke with Councilmember Ce-Ce Gerlach about those votes, and we're going to have more on that later. But first, Mayor Matt Tuerk gave his address. He started by talking about positive things like a successful Pride event, local football games, Dominican Heritage Day, and the Art Museum permanently getting rid of admission fees. But then Mayor Tuerk spoke on some of the negative things plaguing Allentown, like the terrible violence and reckless deaths we've been seeing in the city.
Today I had to speak at a press conference in front of Deerhoff High School on the death of a member of the Deerhoff community and a member of our Syrian American community and a member of our East Side community due to a fatal automobile accident. The pedestrian was struck on Irving. And for me, during a week in which we hosted the Great Allentown Fair and saw thousands of people from across the Lehigh Valley come to the city of Allentown and enjoy each other's company, it had me thinking more about the awful things that happened in the city over the past week. And that includes losing a life. A man was shot dead on the south side on last Thursday night, and there was another near fatal shooting at 5th and Cedar. On Monday, on Labor Day, we responded to a fire on Mohawk Street on the south side that left 15 people without shelter. And thank God for the Red Cross coming to help us. We responded to that fire with fewer firefighters than we should have. In order to respond to a fire like that, you want to see much more firefighters, but we just do not have the same firefighter force present in the city of Allentown to respond to those types of challenges. Thankfully, our firefighters are eminently capable and well trained, and we're able to knock down that fire with no loss of life. Excuse me. The effort to slow traffic down in the city of Allentown that will result in fewer deaths of pedestrians is going to be possible by investing further in our police department, who's responsible for enforcement.
Council also approved 2 new police officers. The first is 30-year-old Merville Muvindu of Quakertown and 40-year-old Stephen Betties of Palm, Pennsylvania. The motion to hire passed 6-1, with Gerlach voting no. Bill 92 was also on the agenda, and if passed, it would eliminate getting thrown in jail as a consequence for an unpaid parking ticket. A motion was made to table the vote, and that passed 5-2, with council members Ed Zuckel and Ce-Ce Gerlach being the only no votes on tabling. Now, Councilmember Daryl Hendricks, who heads the Public Safety Committee, said he wanted to table the bill until the Parking Authority came up with an alternative plan, and adding that no one has been imprisoned in the recent past because of parking tickets. Now, when something is tabled, it means it will be revisited at another meeting, but it also means council can no longer discuss the topic during the current meeting. Now, we'll hear more about that later in our interview with Councilmember Gerlach. Several grant application submissions were voted on, including the first under the Biden administration Bipartisan Infrastructure Plan, which was for $200,000 for the U.S. Department of Transportation for projects intended to improve road and pedestrian safety. Council also approved submitting 3 separate grants totaling $11 million for the Vinci Science Center's new downtown Allentown facility. Now, if those applications are approved, it would be by the state, which is also where the money would come from. This is not the same as the $1.5 million in American Rescue Plan funding that we have been hearing about over the past months. These funds are from the state, not the city. However, that $1.5 million in ARPA funding was on the agenda. Bill 39 and 40 were untabled with a 4-3 vote. That means City Council is going to decide on whether the Lehigh Valley IronPigs and the Vinci Science Center's new downtown facility will each get $1.5 million. Here's Council members Ed Zuckel asking why these projects are getting special treatment and Candida Affa responding.
These are being asked to be referred to a committee to expedite the issues. I thought, what happened to the process?
You know, originally, I understood the process and jumping ahead of the line. In the situation with Coca-Cola Park and the pigs, and after listening to Mr. Cunningham speak about branding in Allentown and how important the pigs are to us, because they're the only ones that have a deadline. They have to have this approved and done and start work already in April. So because of that, I believe they have, I personally, as a councilwoman, don't want to be the council person that saw Coca-Cola Park and the pigs leaves the city of Allentown.
Affa added that she felt Major League Baseball was holding the city and the IronPigs hostage by threatening to relocate the team if they don't get the money. She also said it doesn't mean either project will be given the full amount, partial or any. Councilmember Siegel agreed with Affa, saying both projects are shovel-ready.
But I think that this is a worthwhile investment. People are certainly welcome to feel otherwise. We're a deliberative body and we'll deliberate. But I think there's a sense of urgency with this that, you know, it's a shovel-ready project in that sense, and that's why we should move. But
it was Council member Ce-Ce Gerlach who was the most adamant about not letting the two projects get voted on before going through the process like originally planned. Here she is.
My understanding was not only would there be a public process in which people in the community would come forth and provide expert testimony, but then Mike Hanlon called us all up and asked us what our priorities were. Some people said immigration, some people said cops, some people said homelessness. So what was the purpose of all that? It seems as though we're right back where we were. It seems as though we had experts from the community come in, we had the chief testify, we had all these people testify for what? To be right back where we were. We learned from the community that homelessness is a huge issue. We learned from the community that public safety is a huge issue. Rather that's cops, rather that is credible messengers. Either way, public safety. We learned from the community that having something for the youth to do are huge issues. But yet here we are once again with these two items that will come before us, and they were going to be before us tonight. And I just, for the life of me, don't understand why it's these two items that out of all the money that's left from ARPA, that these are the first two items that we decide to allocate funds to, not the unsheltered, not gun violence prevention, not affordable housing, not a youth center. Why these two items? It's a county-owned stadium, county-owned. Their fund balance, the county's fund balance is much larger than ours. I believe that the threat of them leaving is being made so that we rush and allocate this money. They're not going to leave. The county is going to make sure that they don't leave. The county is not going to allow the IronPigs to leave. It's that simple.
Now, we had a chance to talk with Gerlach about her no vote, among other things, including incarceration for parking tickets. Take a look.
As always, thank you for giving me some time. I do really appreciate it. I guess it was last night, we had a city council meeting, and it began with untabling of ARPA funding for a couple projects, only the IronPigs and the Vinci Science Center for $1.5 million. Now, I guess what this means is that it will be voted on the 28th. It wasn't actually voted on for approval last night. You had some choice words about these projects and how they are kind of going against the process that was agreed upon at the beginning of all of this. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Not even really thinking about these two items in particular, just process in general. We told the public that we were going to have experts come and provide testimony as to different ways we could best utilize this money. We did that. We then told the public that we would listen to everything that they said, that the experts said, and we would, as council people, present some type of like comprehensive budget, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And that's never happened. So we listened, and then as soon as we had that last meeting, it seems as though the last expert testimony meeting, it seems as though the plan was already in the works to immediately bring these two items right back on the agenda. These two items have been on, especially the IronPigs, has been on the agenda. I don't know, I feel like for at least 6 months. It just keeps coming back. I feel like even underneath the previous administration, it was on the agenda. And if not on the agenda, I think it was in like his proposed budget, the IronPigs one. And it's just, it's challenging because the members of the public really haven't had an opportunity to speak on any of these issues, because even at the meetings where we've had experts come in, there hasn't been members of the public haven't been allowed to speak. Even when we had the Vinci and the IronPigs come in underneath the tourism category, members of the public were not allowed to speak. Mike Hanlon, our city clerk, has called all of us up and emailed us and asked us, okay, based on the testimony you've heard, what do you want to spend this money on? So we've all provided that to him. And, you know, it runs the gamut, everything from homelessness to affordable housing, to adding 10 more police officers, to immigration services. So like we've all expressed to him what we'd like to spend the money on. I don't understand why we're already spending the money. It's been acknowledged last night that these two organizations are jumping ahead. It was acknowledged. And I thought that we did everything over the last several months to prevent organizations from jumping ahead, but now we're like condoning it. So I just, for the life of me, I really just can't understand why this is happening.
Were either of these projects brought up when the process was being discussed and built?
So originally, no. I mean, they were the premise of having a process, because in the beginning, it, you know, when they were originally brought up, it kind of just came out of left field, like why these two? So then we, you know, we really wanted to have a more comprehensive and thorough conversation. There was a point where there were some members of council that wanted a discussion on tourism and entertainment as a way to discuss these two items. So there was a night that we had Mr. Callahan and someone from Discovery Lehigh Valley. They came and spoke about tourism in general. And then we had a special meeting that was just for these two items.
Do you feel that, you know, you had mentioned a couple of times that the Vinci Center officials had come to you and answered some questions that you had asked. Do you feel that you're getting a similar response from the IronPigs?
No. So the questions way back, like over a year ago, I had met with Lynn Erickson at the current Da Vinci location, and I had expressed concerns that whenever there's a massive project downtown, it's like this lift all boats will rise together, the tide will lift all boats kind of mentality, and that never happens. That the only way that all boats will be lifted is if there is intentional planning and policy metrics that are set to ensure that all boats are being lifted. So I spoke with her about hiring Allentown residents first. I spoke with her about ensuring that every single resident of Allentown will be able to enter that facility regardless of their ability to pay. I spoke with her about our young people walking in there and seeing themselves as scientists. We spoke about having our Allen and Deereth and Building 21 students being able to not just, you know, serve popcorn, but to get like mentorships and internships that could lead to a professional career. And she heard that, and she's been out there meeting with members of the community. And there's a a program called Museums for All. It looks like she's explored that, where people who are on public assistance will pay just a couple bucks to get in, so that's great. Now the next push from me to her is the jobs. So you want to hire Allentown residents, great. How are you going to do that? Like what strategies are you going to use? Are you going to have a job fair that's just for Allentown residents? Are you going to post just in Allentown first? Are you going to recruit from only the surrounding neighborhoods? Like what strategies and what are your metrics? What are your benchmarks for success? How will we know that you've succeeded in meeting those goals? So that would be my next push. I did ask the gentleman from the IronPigs about like the wages that he pays. I believe it was $12 or $12.50 an hour. And you know, that's concerning because that's not a livable wage. And then I did ask about the breakdown between how many Allentown residents have like professional, like upper level management jobs versus how many are serving the popcorn. At that moment, he didn't have the data. I'm hoping that on the 28th, if they're back, that he'll have some of that data so we can really see how the IronPigs from an employment standpoint is helping our residents as they stated is.
Do you feel it's just because these are, as several council members have put it shovel ready, that these are the two projects that are being catapulted to the front? Or is there another reason? Because it feels like there are a lot of things that could be, you know, relying on, you know, lower prices for building supplies and things like that.
Yeah, definitely. Someone came in from the CACLV talking about the youth center that's shovel ready. From what she said, it's ready to go. There are organizations that serve the unsheltered community, and they have shovel ready projects. They're ready to go. I would venture to say someone sleeping underneath a bridge is a little bit more urgent than anything else. I would say that preventing another young person from being shot in the city of Allentown is I'd say it's pretty urgent. And I'd say that that's shovel ready as well. I can't say what else is going on. I really just don't understand why these are the top two issues that we want to spend our money on. I don't understand it. No one's explained it to me. And again, if we were to have a full comprehensive budget where, okay, so there's $28 million left. The mayor has decided that he wants to use 18 of it to essentially allocate to different organizations. Okay, present us with a budget for $18 million that has various line items on how you want to spend that money. And if I see that 15 million is going towards homelessness, gun violence prevention, and a youth center, then maybe I might feel more comfortable voting to spend this 3 million on a baseball stadium and a science center. Without seeing that and prematurely voting on these two items, I think it's a huge mistake financially, because I've never seen a budget process like that. Imagine if that's how we did our regular budget process. We just kind of piecemeal things together, voted on a little here and a speck there, and that's not how you budget. And that was the purpose of us doing this process for the last several months, so that we would have a comprehensive budget.
Does this mean that we could expect a no vote from you on these two projects on the 28th?
So on the 28th, it's just the Budget and Finance Committee. I'm not on the Budget and Finance Committee. I will be there. So my vote won't count on the 28th. So essentially what's happening with these two pieces of legislation is they're being treated like any other piece of legislation. They're going to go through committee. So Josh chairs the Budget and Finance Committee, and it seems as though he's in favor of these two items. And then also on there, I believe is Daryl Hendricks, and I believe Candida Affa. And it seems as though they're all in favor. So we'll see what happens, if members of the public show up and are able to persuade them to not push it through to the regular meeting. The rest of us who are not on the Budget and Finance Committee, our opportunity to vote will be, if it gets passed on through the committee, it will be October 5th at the regular council meeting. We'll have an opportunity to express our desires. My main thing is, it's not everyone's painting this like, oh, well, if you vote against it, you don't value the IronPigs. No, it's not that. We have a limited amount of money. We're being told we have $18 million to spend. We don't own that stadium. That's a county stadium. So we're being asked, with our limited resources and a city that has thousands of homeless people, we have a gun violence health epidemic, we have lack of opportunities for young people in this city. We have an affordable housing crisis in this city. We have buildings that are falling apart, city-owned buildings that need infrastructural improvement. We're being asked to help pay for improvements in a building that we don't even own, and that the only revenue we see is from the payroll taxes. That is why I have concern. If we own the building, like in some municipalities, the cities own the stadium, so therefore they have put up money. Okay, we don't own the stadium. The county owns the stadium. Their fund balance is much healthier than ours. They received more ARPA money than what we did, but yet we're the ones that are being asked to put over $1 million into a stadium that we don't even own. I mean, is Emmaus going to put $1 million in? Is Macungie going to put $1 million in? This is a county stadium. This is a regional thing. Yes, it's in our city, but I'm sure the Allentown residents are not the only ones that attend these baseball games. Losing the IronPigs would hurt the county. That's who it would hurt.
At the last special meeting, I think it was the owner that got up and spoke, the owner of the IronPigs, and he had mentioned a $3.5 million. I think it was in hotel tax money that the city gets because they split the land with the county at the beginning. Have you been able to look into that? Is that accurate?
Yeah, I have not looked into that. I have someone at the county. Oh, look, so I'm in McDonald's right now doing this, and a resident is listening to this Zoom in 100% agreement and gave me a note. So I mean, this just makes sense to not give them money. But anyways, see, I have it right here. He gave me a note on a napkin. Yeah, so I have not looked into that. I have a source that is more connected than I am at the county that's been helping me. So that's something I would have to pass off to that person.
Is there anything else about the ARPA funding that you feel we need to touch on?
I guess just overall, I mean, again, this is American Rescue money. If you look at the legislation, again and again, it mentions marginalized communities. It mentions addressing systemic issues of oppression. And I want to make sure that the money we invest is doing those two things. For me, the number one thing is the unsheltered community. We have a small enough homeless population in the city of Allentown that if we invested enough money along with the county and along with the philanthropic community, we could damn near end homelessness in the city of Allentown.
Before I let you go, is there anything else in the rest of the meeting that you wanted to address?
I guess the only other thing would be the Bill 92, I believe it was, which would remove incarceration for unpaid parking tickets.
Mhm.
Oh my Lord, that's been up for over a year at this point. And essentially in the city of Allentown, if you don't pay your parking tickets by law, you could be incarcerated for up to 10 days. The city of Reading eliminated that from their legislation, from their ordinance. Now it's a civil matter, not a criminal matter. Just because you're poor doesn't mean you've committed a crime. We have to decriminalize poverty and homelessness and struggle, especially in times like these. So in the city of Reading, if you don't pay your parking tickets, it's treated as a civil matter. You will go to court, civil court, and they'll boot your car. They'll just boot it. And we had the opportunity last night to do that, but that didn't happen. So maybe we'll get them next time.
Do you have any idea how often that's happening here in Allentown, that somebody is actually being incarcerated for this?
Yeah, so it depends who you ask. If you ask city officials, they will say that hasn't happened at all in the recent years. Ed Zuckel, my fellow council person, he was a constable and he remembers taking people, serving warrants for unpaid parking tickets, and then being, in places like McDonald's and laundromats, you run into people who have stories that don't exactly match what we're being told. So I don't know. My answer to that is either it's a problem and we are locking people up for unpaid tickets and we need to eliminate that language, or it's not a problem. And then one would say, why do we have it on the books? Why do we have a law that we're not even using on the books? Let's clean it up and let's update to 2022.
Now, Gerlach told me that the note that resident listening to our interview slipped her said that the city should be asking for a 5% stake in ownership of the IronPigs. Now, remember, you can watch this council meeting or any past or live one on the city website. And if you're looking for something to do over the next few weeks, the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce is kicking off the first of 3 Latino restaurant weeks. The 15th to the 23rd is in Bethlehem. The 23rd to the 30th, Allentown restaurants are going to be showcased. And the third week, the 30th to the 7th, will be held in Easton. As for City Council, the next meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, the 21st at 6:30, and we'll be watching so you don't have to. I'm Ben Stemrick, and thanks for paying attention.